Okay, I think we can start now. So, welcome again to Careers for the Environment, an event under the Sustainable Futures Project, which we are running to celebrate World Environment Day this 5th of June. Today, you will meet role models who will share their insights and experiences when it comes to building careers that help protect our environment. My name is Madel from Founders for Schools, and I will be hosting this session. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of my colleague at Founders for Schools Executive Director, Alison McEwen, who will be available in the chat box if you have any need for support within the duration of the program. To the audience in their classrooms or at home, please ensure that your audio and video are turned off. And if you have any questions at any point of the session, feel free to ask them using the chat function. Please use the chat box for questions related to this topic so that it's easier for us to track and answer them at the latter part of the session. Just a reminder that we are recording this session and it will be featured on the FRS platforms and YouTube channel. Now, on to the program proper for today's event. We are so excited to welcome three guest speakers from various fields that look after our environment. First off, we are so delighted to be joined by the Sustainable Travel Advisor of the University of Northampton. As part of the Environment and Sustainability team, she helps ensure that the UON community is saving as much energy as they can while traveling. Please welcome Holly Darby. Holly.
Hi, morning everybody. So, as Madel said, my name's Holly and I work in the Environment and Sustainability team at the University of Northampton. I've been in post since winter 2020, originally as a travel plan coordinator and now as a sustainable travel advisor. So, after doing my A-levels, I worked as a full-time nanny, a teaching assistant and nursery assistant. And whilst I absolutely adored those jobs, they weren't greatly paid in the private sector. And I didn't actually have the qualifications to continue as the rules of employment changed. So I left those jobs and joined a temping agency just to get me by with some reception roles whilst I figured out what I wanted to do permanently. One of my temping roles led me to work at Northamptonshire County Council. It was just a generic admin job, responding to emails, photocopying, helping the parking team with their parking fine checks that they got. It wasn't the most exciting job in the world, but I did meet some nice people and it was only for short term. And then one day I was speaking to a lady in the kitchen area who said she had a permanent full-time job in her team coming up. And she asked me if I had ever heard of a travel plan, to which I answered honestly and said, nope, never. So she gave me a brief overview and assured me that she would teach me what to do, but that I would be a good fit for the team. So a few weeks later, I joined the Highways and Road Safety team as a travel plan assessor. So in my new role, I would be sent very lengthy PDF documents to read from local building companies. So they would be building things like new housing estates or a new industrial complex or even some schools. And in fact, the University of Northampton was one of them when they moved campus around 2018. And my job was to read through the travel plan that had been submitted and decide whether the builders had included enough measures to make the site sustainable and essentially lower car use, the amount of cars coming on and off site. And if they had, it would be approved. And if they hadn't, I'd send them some ideas on how to improve that. So a travel plan is required as part of building conditions. And it lists the ways in which, when the build has been completed and the new residents or the staff or whoever go into those buildings, how they would be encouraged to travel. Because obviously we want to lower our carbon emissions. So the plan would include ideas such as a free bus pass for everyone who moved into the new houses, or having EV electric vehicle charging points for staff if it was a new office. And we wanted to see that parking was limited, but other schemes such as cycle to work, adequate bus routes, car sharing, motorcycle anchors, all things like that, and how they were going to be advertised to the people using that site. So the aim was to reduce single occupancy vehicles, which is basically one person driving one car every day. The builders had to create a role to manage all of this, and this role was called the Travel Plan Coordinator, which I learned was a very rare job. The builders would say they were employing a travel plan coordinator to help advise the travel plan to the community and promote sustainable travel. But it was quite hard to get hold of the travel plan coordinator. I think that was the toughest part of that job, was to get their email address or their contact details from the builder. I think in the 3 years I was in that job, I only spoke to about 4. They would say that the role hadn't been filled yet, or they'd give me fake contact details. It was a nightmare. So some housing companies would simply pretend that the sales assistants were travel plan coordinators. So yeah, that was quite difficult. But once a development was built, I would go and see that they were doing what they promised. More often than not, they weren't, and it was highly frustrating. And I used to ask what we could do to help encourage more sustainable forms of travel, or maybe even enforce it. And I was told nothing. And I came to realise that I was spending hours reading through travel plans every day and providing these feedback to the builders on how to be more sustainable and eco-friendly. And actually, if they didn't do it, I couldn't do anything about it. So I was quite down about this, and I decided to leave and jump back into admin and reception roles for a bit. And I worked for a company in Northampton for the next 2 years who were the most un-eco-friendly company I'd ever worked for. They didn't have recycling bins, they used tons of paper, they threw food away for weekly conferences, had no travel incentives. And it dawned on me that actually I really did care about this stuff, and I wanted to get into a job that really did help. So job hunting continued, and I messaged a friend who worked at the university, and she said there was a travel plan coordinator job going, the job that was so rare. So I jumped at the chance. I wanted to be the person that I wish I could have met when I worked for the council, and be a travel plan coordinator who actually worked off the travel plan and did implement all these vehicle reduction schemes. So a long story short, I applied. Apparently I was the only interviewee who had a travel plan experience, so I got the job. So I've been at the university for nearly 3 years now, and our travel plan, which usually has a lifespan of about 3 to 5 years, has actually ended. But not only did I do all the things that the travel plan originally promised, I also got to submit the updated travel plan and all the schemes that I'd done to my old council manager. And she said it was one of the best she had ever seen in a long time. So that made me extremely happy. I'm currently writing a whole new travel plan with new targets to hit, and it will cover our aims for the next 5 years. And I can promise you that this is even rarer to willingly extend a travel plan than it is to even have the email of a travel plan coordinator. So a bit about what I do at the moment. So at Northampton, we have reduced parking for students, and we run a permit scheme where we have to look at certain criteria as to whether a student should be allowed to park on campus, because some live close enough to walk or to cycle or to catch our buses. We offer cycle to work schemes for staff where they can get discounted bikes and pay through their salary. And we have bikes for hire for students. We have electric vehicle charging points for everyone, and we have motorcycle anchors, as electric vehicles and motorcycles are 2 forms of travel that have lower carbon emissions than a standard one-driver car. And we also do surveys each year to ask people about their travel habits and see if we have had an increase in cycling and walking. We hold regular events on campus to bring awareness about reducing carbon emissions to staff and students. as well as just in general being more environmentally friendly. And whilst actually getting people out of their cars for their commute to work and school is very hard, when I see someone try an e-bike, for example, for the first time and love it and change their commuting habits, it does make it worthwhile. So not only are they reducing their carbon emissions by riding a bike instead of driving a car, they're also introducing exercise into their daily routine, and so it has a health benefit as well. I get to work with like-minded people in our team. So we have an energy officer, we have a biodiversity officer, and it's really inspiring to be around other people that have those goals in mind as well. So I'm very happy to be in this role. And whilst it's not something I knew much about years ago, when I wasn't sat at school thinking, oh, I want to be a travel plan coordinator, it's now something I always see myself staying in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Holly. It's so wonderful to hear how passionate you are about your role and how you play a huge part in encouraging sustainability in the University of Northampton. So if anyone from our audience has a question for Holly, please do share it in the chat box and we'll be answering all of them later on in the session. So now to introduce another role model in the world of business, we have the managing partner of Bubble Life, who is responsible for the development and research of biodegradable packaging solutions used in personal care products. So please welcome Carolina Avellaneda. Carolina?
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for having me today. Thank you for your time. As you said, well, I am Carolina Avellaneda. I am managing partner at Bubble Life Limited. At Bubble Life, what we want to do is to get rid of plastic bottles, but in our bathrooms. And how did I get here? Well, I will share my story with you. I am originally from Colombia. I moved into the UK nearly 6 years ago. But back in Colombia, I studied biology. I was and I am still fascinated about how all that is around us interact. As a biologist, I got interested in subjects as chemistry, botany, geography, among others. I also learned that one of the most important sources of knowledge are people. So after many years of working in places with very diverse ecosystems, such as the Amazon or the Pacific rainforest in Colombia, I understand that sustainability depends on our understanding of how the things around us interact. I studied my master's in environment development and policy at the University of Sussex. I wanted to get more knowledge about climate change, how the environment is being affected for all these decisions that we have been taking through all these years since we start talking about climate change, and how development is related with this. When I got my degree, my partner and I, we founded Bubble Life Limited, where we develop a biodegradable membrane to replace those plastic bottles in our bathrooms. What do I mean? We develop this. Yeah, these are little bubbles, they contain liquid soaps, and this is the membrane that we develop. The main skills that we highlight at Bubble Life are observation and curiosity. We constantly observe these different situations, or for example, in our case, like we have so many plastic bottles in our bathrooms. Lots of attention is, we pay lots of attention to the plastic bottles, the single-use plastic bottles, the ones that we use for drinking water or where we buy our fizzy drinks. But in our bathrooms, we have a big collection of those plastic bottles as well. And we wanted to change this situation, and that's where when curiosity starts working, like how can we change this situation? What can we do? Yeah. So this curiosity is constantly driving us through all these what ifs. What if I change it? What if I try this in a different way? what will happen? So remember I told you that in BioLife we want to replace plastic bottles using this biodegradable membrane that I show you. Well, all started when we noticed all this huge amount of plastic bottles. Where are they? Those plastic bottles are the ones that contain shampoo, conditioner, the shower gel, the hand soap. And we wanted to change this situation and avoid these bottles to end in a landfill, because we realized that the majority of these bottles, we don't recycle them. Yeah. And here is where we start interacting with people. So we conducted surveys, and we want to know is why we use liquid soaps in Europe, because in Colombia, where I come from, we prefer bar soaps. Yeah. So with the surveys, we identified that in Europe, people prefer liquid soaps. And remember that I told you that people are a great source of information? Well, with these surveys, now we knew what we like here in Europe. And we also identified that we don't recycle these plastic bottles for a very simple reason, because we don't have a recyclable bin in our bathroom, yeah, which is different from our kitchens. In our kitchens, normally we have the recycling bin, the normal or ordinary bin. But in our bathrooms, if we throw up a bottle, probably it will go with the rest of the thing and it will end in the landfill. And many of the plastics that we use in our bathroom are not easily recyclable. Yeah, so we had different challenges in there. That's when I say observation is key. Like, oh, this plastic is different than this plastic, the one that I use for my water bottle. And this plastic is in the bathroom. It will go to a different bin. This water bottle will go to the one that I have in the kitchen. These habits, they are little things, but we identify them, and now we want to create a solution. So from all that, we wanted to provide this solution, the membrane, that is better. It changes our habits and it doesn't pollute. Yeah, so we didn't want to change one thing and create a different problem. We want to change that thing and create a solution. Yeah, so it doesn't pollute. And when we were in this situation, that's where all the chemistry I knew started to become more and more present. At BioLife, we try different materials. We check how they behave, keeping the soaps inside them, how long it takes for them to biodegrade, yeah, wherever they end. And we consider these different scenarios because, of course, we use our membrane in the bathroom, and when we pop it, it can go through the plug hole. That means that it will end in the sewage system. So we need to check what will happen with the membrane in the sewage system, or if we just pop it and keep the membrane aside and we put it in our compostable bin or normal bin, what will happen with that membrane? So we want to be sure that it is biodegradable in water and wherever else it ends. And we check that it's not just, it doesn't make any harm to the environment. We also want to check that it improves the condition where it finishes. So if it ends in the sewage, it can be eaten. For example, if it reaches the ocean, the fish can eat it and it's not toxic, and it can be biodegraded by the microorganisms that are in the sewage. If it ends in the landfill, it will improve the conditions around it. Or if it ends in the compostable bin, it also provides nutrients to the soil if it ends in the soil. So we go beyond sustainability. We try to be a bit more regenerative, so provide a little bit more of the different from the original conditions. As part of my job in BioLife, I analyze data, so how many bottles are entering the landfills, how many bottles from our bathrooms, how many bottles in Europe, all sort of different data. When we start trying a new material, I design the experiments to test if it is biodegradable, how long does it last, if it can contain the soap, how it behaves with the different soaps. I collect data from those experiments, and after that I analyze the data. I identify patterns. So this is working, this is not working, how can we move forward from this data? And I provide the result to make those decisions. So I learned and I improved my skills in Excel and similar data analysis program, because I need to register and analyze all of it, and after that provide the report. And something that we do daily, and this is like my daily activities, we constantly ask questions, such as, why do we do things as we do? Because normally we just do the things. We don't question why we are doing the things. Yeah. So why? And it's something that makes us think constantly. After asking why we do this as we do it, we start thinking, how can we make it better? Yeah. So for example, we want to know why we buy liquid soaps. Now we know, yeah? Because in Europe, we like it. We like the lather that it leaves in our skin, and we like a clean product because that's something that many people doesn't like to take the bar soap, and the bar soap is a bit melted, or I don't know, maybe it has a hair. We don't like that. Yeah, so we prefer the liquid soap. It leaves our skin nice, and we have this clean product that comes out of the bottle. And knowing this, we designed the liquid soap that could be better for the environment. I show it to you, but we want to improve and make it better. How? We know that something that is very environmentally expensive is to move water from one place to another. Yeah, so we have these bubbles. We know that they contain a lot of water, and now we want to improve that. So what we are doing now is to provide them dehydrated. Yeah, so we don't need to move them wet with all that weight, spending more petrol and needed lorries to move it from one side to another. We just have a light product with less water that you just need to add the water as soon as you get it in your house, yeah, or at home. And we are reusing that environmental footprint that it requires to move a heavy weight from one place to another. So that's how we make the liquid soap that we all use. We keep the preference of liquid soap, but we are packaging it in a biodegradable membrane that is promotes and improves the condition of the environment where at the end. And we are improving our product with a dehydrated version, which goes beyond just our production. It goes through the entire supply chain. So I'm inviting you to be curious, to identify situations that can be improved, and just go and improve them. Find different solutions for each challenging situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolina. So wonderful to hear that. And you've definitely inspired us to save our environment, starting from our own bathrooms. And hopefully, your insights have encouraged the students watching today to take a similar career path. Again, if anyone from our audience has a question for Carolina, please do share it in the chat box, and we'll be answering all of them later on in the session. We are now down to our third and final speaker, and I'm so excited to introduce to you a brilliant researcher from the University of Aberdeen who specializes in environmental contamination and marine biology. Let's welcome Rebecca von Helfeld.
Good morning. So I'm essentially on the other end of what Carolina just presented, which is, excuse me, I look at what happens if we don't act sustainably and if everything we use gets into the environment. And essentially, I look at ocean contamination. So I'm guessing, especially after the presentation just now, we're all aware of plastic getting into the environment. We've all seen videos of all the garbage bags and everything in the ocean. But there's so much more that finds its way into our marine ecosystems. There's all the industrial waste that we have, there's all the pharmaceuticals, there's heavy metals, there's essentially everything that we use in our daily lives or that is used to make our lives easier somehow find their way into the ocean. And some of them might not be as bad, some might have no effect at all, but if you imagine swimming in a pool of everything that we leave behind, at some point it will have an impact on the animals in the ocean. So my research looks at for how long animals are exposed to these waste products, these pharmaceuticals and the plastic, how they interact with each other as well as with the animals, and what the effect is in the end on the ecosystem. So if all the fish start to become less active or if they move elsewhere, then what happens to the once vibrant and healthy ecosystem? Will other species come in? Will it just become kind of a barren wasteland of nothing? And of course, we are very self-centered animals, let's say. We always want to know what the final impact for us is as well. So of course, some of my research focuses on looking at, for one, what happens if an ecosystem no longer functions the way it should, and also us being reliant on fish as a source of protein means that we potentially consume some of what we put into the ocean in the very end as well. So my current work looks at heavy metals being released from offshore oil and gas pipelines, for example, with us now trying to switch to a more sustainable source of energy, so wind and solar power. We're trying to get away from all the oil and gas. And of course, we're also extracting oil and gas in the oceans, for which we need pipelines to then carry all the extracted oil and gas back to land. And at the moment, there is the idea that we could leave some of these pipelines and the structures in the ocean because they are a great habitat for animals. They are usually in environments where there's just kind of a muddy sediment at the bottom, which isn't very interesting for many fish and kind of more bottom feeding animals. So if you have a construct in there essentially looking like the Eiffel Tower, it attracts a lot of animals to make that their new home. But we have to be careful that with all the contaminants around that site, we don't accidentally create a habitat that is really poisonous to the animals. And although I'm not like the two speakers before me directly working in sustainability and improving things, a lot of the research that I'm doing has the potential to solve future problems or to change our way of interacting with the environment as a whole. So it has the potential to help adapt future policies and regulations, to change, for example, what we do before we put structures into the ocean or how we treat our industrial waste. It also might improve environmental risk assessments, so making companies more responsible for looking at the bigger picture rather than just their small little slice of the ocean that they're using. And I have the little hope that it makes future societies a bit more sustainable, because all of us are aware of not driving for a 5-minute walk down the road or not taking the airplane to every single place you want to go. But most of us won't think about this in the small aspects of life. And I hope that by looking at the ocean as a whole system, that maybe we can integrate ourselves into the system a little more and take care of it more, because we do need a functioning ocean for a healthy planet. And I guess for you, it's probably most interesting how I got to this point. So I'm one of those people who never really stopped studying. And there is different pathways of becoming a marine biologist or a scientist in general. And not everyone has to study for 8 years after leaving high school. So I did my undergraduate in a more generic environmental science field and realized how much I really liked the ocean. So I then specialized in marine biology during my master's and did a PhD afterwards because I really wanted to get into the kind of contamination research and make that my little field of expertise. And now I work at the University of Aberdeen where I'm a researcher for the university. But theoretically, you could also just do an undergraduate and then work for the government, or you can work for different industries that are always looking for either environmental risk assessors or kind of more sustainability focused jobs. And if you then realize that maybe you want to go into research, you can always add another degree to the end. But you aren't forced to do this for 8 years straight. So yeah, that's essentially my career path, and I'm happy to take any questions or offer any sort of insights if there are any.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. So great to learn how your work looks into the protection of our oceans and how it would inform future policies and solutions. So hopefully our students get inspired from your career path as well. Again, if our audience has any questions for Rebecca and our previous speakers, please do share them in the chat box. And I see that we already have a few. So I guess we can start our next segment now, which is answering your questions. First, we have a question for Carolina. So our audience is asking, what is the barrier to getting rid of plastic bottles completely?
Well, I will be flat and direct. Like the less terms we do, the more honest we can be. But in reality, plastic is really cheap to produce, and plastic is really convenient. And the thing is, we find or we develop plastic in a different time frame where the world was bigger. So we were not conscious about the end of these products. Nowadays, we know what happened with it. So plastic can contain many things. You just use it and you just throw it away. Yeah, nowadays we think that it gets recycled. Not many of it gets recycled, actually. And that's the problem. We need to think constantly about costs. So our membrane, we are trying to make it as competitive as possible. Yeah, because to compete with plastic is, in terms of cost and the speed of the production of it, is a challenge. So that's why the development of all these materials takes a long time, because we are constantly trying to reduce cost but not offsetting it with environmental costs. So it's a constant challenge. That's why it's so difficult to get rid of plastic, because we can pack anything in them. One of our challenge, for example, is that we are working with liquids. So we need to develop something that can contain those liquids inside. And think about something that is not glass or plastic. And that's the challenge for all us, all the work in the same industry is this. Just try to contain liquids in something that can be biodegradable or that won't last in the planet for hundreds or thousands of years. Because if we develop something like that, we will have to be using that container for hundreds or thousands of years. That's the point. That's the thing. We not just use it and throw it away. It will be sustainable if we use it for many years. So that's the real challenge: the speed of the production of plastic and the cheapest, the cheap it is to produce. Is not expensive to produce it. Mm-hmm.
And some of our audience are also curious where they can find your biodegradable packaging.
Yeah. You haven't seen it in the UK because we are in the patenting process. Yeah, so we hope to launch it at the end of the year, because again, all the research, we need to have real data. We don't want just to be, we call this a greenwash brand. So we don't want to say that, oh yes, it's sustainable, it's great. No, we need all this data that supports all the claims that we are doing. We are filing the patent, and once it is patent, we can release it in the market. But the UK will be the first market to see it. hopefully at the end of this year.
Thank you so much, Carolina. Next, we have a question for Holly. So they're asking, for sustainable travel, does the government have goals, or especially for new builds or of residential homes or corporate buildings?
Yes, so the UK government does have a government property sustainability strategy that runs from last year until 2030. Again, it's to help reduce carbon emissions. It uses travel plans like I discussed, and local governments as well, obviously, can sign up to be net zero. And actually, in my after work, private life, I'm actually in the process of building a little all-electric cottage. And one of my building conditions is actually that I cannot even move into the house until I have an electric vehicle charger put there. Even though I don't have an electric vehicle, unfortunately, at the moment, but it's really great to see that, you know, these things are being implemented, even if it is something at the moment as small as having an EV charger in all the houses, or, you know, making sure that there are bus routes, making sure that schools, you know, have walking buses and things like that, and encourage children to walk, cycle, etc. So, you know, there is the big government picture, but then there's also the more local governments, towns, and what they decide to do individually.
Thanks, Holly. It's so nice to hear that we're all working towards sustainability, especially when it comes to travel. Perhaps some of the students here may not even be aware that, you know, there's a sustainability aspect to travel. So thank you so much for those insights. And then for Rebecca, what is your ultimate aims for marine biology? What do you want to see happen?
I mean, the really humble answer would be to save the world, of course. But I think it's probably just to see some sort of positive change, because for as long as I can remember, there has been the talk about overfishing, about pollution in the oceans, more recently, plastic getting into the oceans and being found in every aspect. We've now even found microplastic particles in the human digestive tract. So very clearly, it goes from start to finish, and it reaches every corner of this planet. But we seem to still think that this big portion of the planet, which is the ocean, isn't really worth taking care of, although it is essentially the lungs and the entire kind of life force of this planet. So I hope that with the work that I'm doing, there will be a small little change towards something positive, and that maybe in the long run, we can save the biggest portion of the ocean and make this planet kind of self-sufficient again, and us not being the kind of parasites that are leeching off of its life force without giving back.
Thanks, Rebecca. That's such a hopeful message. So another question from our audience, I think this is for everyone. Would you say that individual habits can only go so far in helping sustainability, and that regional and national policy changes and enforcement are key to future sustainability? So let's start with Holly first.
I think they're both important, but actually I would say if everybody did a little bit on their own part, that makes the biggest difference, because we have a habit of doing what everyone else is doing. So if I saw my friend just, well, I mean, I wouldn't, but if I saw my friend, you know, chucking a plastic bottle in general waste, I might just do it because, oh, that's what everyone else is doing. But then if I saw someone standing there reading the back of a bottle, seeing if it can be recycled, which bin it should go in, then I would do the same. We are kind of creatures of habit. So if everybody just does a little thing, whether it is recycling or working from home one day a week rather than driving in every time, or, you know, going for a soap bar rather than a plastic bottle filled with liquid soap, it does help trigger that effect, and other people will see it and be like, oh, I might do that as well. Oh, I might do that. You know, I think it does come down to the individual, because we get to make the choices for us as individuals.
Thanks, Holly. How about you, Carolina?
Yeah, I agree. I think they work at different levels because our individual decisions will have an impact in the scale that we can perceive. Yeah, so we see our little changes happening, and we can motivate other people to do them. But at policy makers level or regional and national levels is how we can change the industry, change the business push. Yeah, it's not stop producing it. Nobody's buying it, so stop producing it. Yeah, we need the policy to stop that at that scale. Yeah, stop drilling oil. Yeah, we as individuals, we could stop buying it. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that they will not feel like big tanks with it for a different industry. So they work at these different levels, and with the policy at a regional or national level, we can make the industries in different sectors to inform us as consumers and individuals, to give us enough information to be able to make conscious decisions. Yeah, so okay, I know where this comes from, I know what it does, I know where it will end, so I won't buy it. Even if they produce it, I won't buy it. So I think they are different, they affect different the scales, yeah, levels, and but each of them have important impact, yeah, in the environment.
How about you, Rebecca?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with what's already been said. And I think we've seen recently that if people actually stand for something, be that sustainability, greener energies, that change can be asked for, and that will then translate into regional and national policies. And I think there is a lot that we can do. I mean, years ago, it started with don't leave the tap running whilst brushing your teeth, which now I don't think I've ever seen anyone do, if not by accident. So there is a lot of change that we can implement just through changing our habits, but then also some things need to be done on a national level. We can't all not buy petrol anymore, because then some people won't get to work. So we need the national policies to change and to support the decisions that individuals have made. But I think there's a lot to say for how much one person can achieve just by changing their habits and inspiring others.
Thank you so much. I think here in this session, we've already inspired individuals to change among our students, hopefully, by maybe thinking about starting their own careers within the field of sustainability. And I guess that's the end of our program. Thank you so much for your insightful and engaging discussions, Holly, Carolina, and Rebecca. I think they have been truly invaluable to our students, and I think I speak for everyone here when I say that today has been a great learning opportunity for us. I also want to thank the students and educators at home or in their classrooms for joining us. You will be emailed a survey form, so please complete this so we can continue to improve our service based on your feedback. We have more events coming up, and for our educators, you can definitely arrange your own event in our website. We are also looking for volunteers as well, just like our guests today who can speak to our students. So you can sign up to our platform and hopefully take part in inspiring the next generation. Again, if you're not yet following us on social media, this will be uploaded on our Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and also our YouTube. So please share our work. Have it. thank you so much again for joining us today. We hope to see you soon. And on behalf of the Sustainable Futures Project, our partners WWF UK and Villers Park Education Trust, we thank you for your support and happy Environment Day, everyone. Thank you.